The champagne glasses clinked like wind chimes as Sarah watched from across the ballroom, her heart pounding against her ribs. She hadn't expected this outcome when she'd impulsively added Michael's name to the guest list of the most exclusive wedding of the decade. Now, as the billionaire groom approached the humble single father with purpose in his stride, the entire room fell silent. What happened next would change both men's lives forever, and prove that sometimes, the most unexpected connections can rewrite our destinies. If you're moved by stories of life-changing moments and believe in the power of human connection, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content that touches the heart and reminds us of what truly matters in life. Sarah Matthews smoothed down her emerald silk bridesmaid dress for the 10th time that hour, trying to calm her nerves. As the wedding planner for tech billionaire James Harrington's marriage to fashion mogul Elena Vasquez, everything had to be perfect. The Harrington-Vasquez wedding was already being called the social event of the year, with celebrities, politicians, and business titans flying in from around the world to attend. The grand ballroom of the Bellevue Hotel had been transformed into an enchanted garden, with cascading white orchids and crystalline decorations that caught the light like morning dew. 500 of the world's most influential people would soon fill these tables, each place setting worth more than what most people earned in a month. Sarah's phone buzzed with a message from her assistant. Florist crisis averted. All good now. She exhaled slowly. Just one more crisis managed in a day full of them. As she tucked her phone away, she glanced out the window and spotted a familiar figure crossing the hotel's courtyard below. Michael Torres was carrying a large toolbox, his work uniform slightly wrinkled but clean. Sarah's heart gave a little twist. She'd known Michael for 3 years now, ever since he started doing maintenance work at her apartment building. A single father raising his 8-year-old daughter Lily after his wife's death from cancer, Michael worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. Despite his circumstances, he always had a kind word and a genuine smile for everyone he encountered. Last week, when Sarah had mentioned she was planning this wedding, Michael had listened with such interest and enthusiasm about her work that she'd been touched. Unlike most people who only wanted to know about the celebrities she'd met, Michael had asked thoughtful questions about the challenges of her job and how she managed the stress. An impulsive thought struck her as she watched him disappear into the service entrance of the hotel. Before she could second-guess herself, Sarah pulled out her phone and added one more name to the guest list, Michael Torres, +1. Daddy, are you sure we're supposed to be here? Lily whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the opulent surroundings. Her navy blue dress, the nicest one she owned, purchased for a cousin's graduation last year, suddenly seemed woefully inadequate among the designer gowns and custom tuxedos surrounding them. Michael squeezed his daughter's hand reassuringly, though he felt just as out of place. Yes, sweetheart. Miss Sarah invited us, remember? She said it would be a nice experience for us. When Sarah had called him yesterday with the invitation, Michael had initially refused. He couldn't imagine attending such an event. But Sarah had been insistent, saying that there had been a cancellation and the seat would go empty otherwise. Think of it as an adventure for Lily, she'd said. How many 8-year-olds get to see a fairy tale wedding up close? For Lily, he'd agreed. His daughter deserved to experience beautiful things, even if just for one night. They found their assigned table near the back of the room, and Michael was relieved to see Sarah approaching them, radiant in her bridesmaid dress. You came, she exclaimed, giving Lily a gentle hug. I'm so glad. How do you like it so far? It's like a princess castle, Lily breathed, her eyes fixed on the crystal chandeliers above. Sarah laughed. Wait until you see the bride. She'll look like a real queen. She turned to Michael. Thank you for coming. I know this isn't your usual scene. Michael rubbed the back of his neck self-consciously. We're definitely the odd ones out here. I think the watch on that gentleman over there costs more than my car. Nonsense, Sarah said firmly. You belong here as much as anyone. Besides, most of these people are so busy trying to impress each other that they rarely have genuine conversations. It's refreshing to have someone real at these events. Before Michael could respond, a commotion near the entrance signaled the arrival of the groom. James Harrington entered the ballroom, tall and commanding in his custom tuxedo. At 35, the tech genius had revolutionized renewable energy storage, making him one of the youngest billionaires in the country. Despite his wealth, he was known for being relatively down-to-earth and philanthropic, though the media still painted him as somewhat enigmatic. "I should go," Sarah said. "The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll check on you later." As she hurried away, Michael turned to Lily. "Well, princess, shall we find our seats?" The ceremony was indeed like something from a fairy tale. Elena Vasquez floated down the aisle in a gown that seemed to be spun from moonlight itself, her dark hair adorned with tiny diamonds that caught the light with every step. James waited at the altar, his expression transforming from composed businessman to awestruck lover the moment he saw his bride. Lily watched with her mouth slightly open, completely entranced. Michael found himself moved as well, memories of his own wedding day surfacing unexpectedly. He and Anna had married in a small church ceremony with just family present, followed by a reception in his parents' backyard. The contrast couldn't have been more stark, yet the look in James's eyes as he watched Elena approach was exactly how Michael had felt seeing Anna walk toward him. Some things, it seemed, transcended wealth and circumstance. After the ceremony, the ballroom was quickly transformed for the reception. Michael and Lily found themselves seated at a table with several other guests who seemed to be friends of the bride, fashion industry people who spoke in rapid-fire conversation about designers and upcoming collections that meant nothing to Michael. Lily was beginning to fidget, the excitement of the ceremony wearing off as hunger set in. The waiters were serving the first course, a delicate arrangement of seafood that made Michael nervous just looking at it. He had no idea which fork to use from the intimidating array of silverware before him. "Just start from the outside and work your way in," came a voice from behind him. Michael turned to find James Harrington himself standing there, champagne glass in hand and a friendly smile on his face. "Mr. Harrington," Michael stammered, half rising from his chair. "Congratulations on your marriage." "Thank you," James replied, his voice warm and genuine. "And please, it's James. You must be Michael Torres." Sarah mentioned she'd invited a special guest. Michael's surprise must have shown on his face because James chuckled. "Sarah and I go way back. College roommates with my best man. She's family, not just our wedding planner." He glanced at Lily, who was staring up at him with undisguised curiosity. "And who might this young lady be?" "I'm Lily," she answered before Michael could speak. "Your wedding was beautiful." The bride looked like Elsa from Frozen, but with dark hair. James laughed, a real laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "That's exactly what my niece said. Elena will be delighted to hear it." He crouched down slightly to be at eye level with Lily. "Are you enjoying yourself, Lily?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, but..." She glanced at the seafood appetizer with uncertainty. "Not a fan of oysters?" James asked knowingly. Lily shook her head. "Me neither, actually," James confided in a stage whisper. That was Elena's choice. "Tell you what," he signaled to a nearby waiter. "Kevin, could you please bring Miss Lily here something from the kitchen? Perhaps some of those mini grilled cheese sandwiches we had at the rehearsal dinner?" "Right away, Mr. Harrington," the waiter replied with a bow. James straightened up. Problem solved. "Now, Michael, Sarah tells me you're quite the handyman." "3 jobs, is it?" Michael shifted uncomfortably. "Yes. Building maintenance, weekend carpentry, and I drive for a rideshare company some nights." Instead of the polite disinterest or awkward pity Michael expected, James's expression showed genuine interest. "That's impressive. What's your specialty?" "Cabinetry, when I get the chance," Michael answered, warming to the subject despite himself. "I apprenticed with a master carpenter before Lily was born. There's something about working with wood, seeing the grain, feeling the texture, creating something that will last." James nodded thoughtfully. "I understand completely. Before I got lost in the world of tech and business plans, I used to build things with my grandfather. There's a satisfaction in tangible creation that coding can't quite match." He glanced around the room. "Listen, would you mind if I joined you for a few minutes?" These events can be a bit overwhelming, even for the groom. Before Michael could process this surprising request, James had taken the empty seat beside Lily, who was now being served her grilled cheese, cut into perfect triangles on a silver platter. "This is the best grilled cheese ever," Lily declared after her first bite. "Only the best for my guests," James said with a wink. He turned back to Michael. "So tell me, if you could do anything, if money and time weren't factors, what would you do with your carpentry skills?" The question caught Michael off guard. It had been so long since he'd allowed himself to dream beyond the next bill payment or rent check. I'd open my own workshop," he said finally. "Custom furniture, restoration work. I'd want to teach, too. Pass on the craft." James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Noble ambition. The world needs more craftsmen and fewer people staring at screens all day." He smiled ruefully. Says the tech billionaire. Their conversation flowed surprisingly easily after that. James asked about Lily's school, her interests, her dreams. He listened attentively as Michael explained the challenges of single parenthood, offering neither judgment nor pity, just understanding. "My mother raised me alone after my father died," James shared. "She worked as a nurse, double shifts sometimes. I remember how tired she always was, but she never complained." Michael felt a connection forming that transcended their vastly different circumstances. Here was a man who, despite his wealth and status, understood struggle and sacrifice. Their conversation was interrupted when Elena appeared, radiant in her wedding gown. "There you are, darling. Everyone's looking for you. It's almost time for our first dance." James stood, introducing Michael and Lily to his new wife. Elena was gracious and warm, complimenting Lily's dress and thanking them both for coming. "I've been monopolizing your husband," Michael apologized. "Not at all," Elena replied with a genuine smile. "James has always had a knack for finding the most interesting people in any room." She touched her husband's arm. "We should go, love. The photographer is waiting." James nodded, then turned back to Michael. "I've enjoyed our conversation. Don't leave without saying goodbye, all right?" As the couple walked away, Lily tugged on Michael's sleeve. "Daddy, he's nice. Not like a billionaire at all." Michael smiled, watching as James and Elena made their way through the crowd, stopping to greet guests along the way. "I think that's why he is who he is, sweetheart. He hasn't forgotten where he came from." The evening progressed in a blur of music, dancing, and more food than Michael had ever seen in one place. Lily was delighted when Sarah took her to meet some of the other children at the wedding, leaving Michael to observe the festivities from their table. He was considering whether it might be time to collect Lily and make a graceful exit when James appeared at his side again. "Michael, I've been looking for you. Would you mind stepping outside with me for a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss." Curious and slightly apprehensive, Michael followed James through the ballroom and out onto a private terrace overlooking the hotel gardens. The night air was cool and refreshing after the warmth of the crowded reception. James leaned against the stone balustrade, loosening his bow tie slightly. "First, I want to thank you for coming tonight. It's been grounding, speaking with you." "I should be thanking you," Michael replied. "This isn't exactly my usual Saturday night. Lily will be talking about this for years." James smiled, then his expression grew more serious. "I don't believe in coincidences, Michael. When Sarah told me about you, something clicked. You see, I've been looking for someone to head up a new project, a vocational training program focused on traditional craftsmanship. Part of my foundation's work." Michael blinked, unsure he was understanding correctly. "The James and Elena Harrington Foundation funds educational initiatives," James continued. "We've built schools, provided scholarships, but this would be different. A workshop where young people could learn real skills, carpentry, metalwork, masonry. Skills that build character along with creating something tangible." "That sounds incredible," Michael said sincerely. "I need someone who understands both the craft and the value of teaching it," James said, his gaze direct and unwavering. "Someone with passion and integrity. Someone like you. Michael felt as though the ground had shifted beneath his feet. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership, James corrected. Full creative control of the program, a master craftsman's salary, benefits, and flexible hours that would allow you to be there for Lily. The offer was so unexpected, so perfectly aligned with the dream Michael had just shared, that he found himself speechless. I know it's sudden, James acknowledged. Take some time to think about it. But I've learned to trust my instincts about people, and something tells me you're exactly who we need. Michael's mind raced with possibilities. No more juggling 3 jobs. No more missing Lily's school events. The chance to return to the work he truly loved. Why me? He finally managed to ask. You don't even know me. James considered this for a moment. My grandfather used to say you can tell everything you need to know about a man by the way he talks about his work and his children. In the span of one conversation, you've shown me your dedication to both. He smiled. Besides, Sarah has been singing your praises for months. She says you're the only maintenance person who ever actually fixes things properly the first time. Michael laughed despite himself. She exaggerates. I doubt it, James replied. He reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a business card. My personal number. Call me next week, and we'll set up a proper meeting to discuss details. He extended his hand. What do you say? Ready for a change? Michael looked at the offered hand, then at the card. In that moment, he thought of Anna, of how she'd always believed in his talent, how she'd encouraged him to dream even when circumstances forced those dreams to be deferred. He took James's hand and shook it firmly. I'd be honored. The ballroom fell silent as James tapped his champagne glass, calling for attention. The evening had progressed to the traditional speeches, and after the best man and maid of honor had shared their heartfelt words, the groom himself stood to address his guests. Elena and I want to thank you all for sharing this day with us, James began, his voice carrying clearly through the room. Marriage, at its core, is about connection, finding that person who sees you, truly sees you, and chooses to walk beside you through life's journey. He smiled down at Elena, who gazed back at him with undisguised adoration. But connections come in many forms, James continued. Sometimes they're forged over years, and sometimes they happen in an instant. Tonight, I've been reminded that the most meaningful connections often come when we least expect them. His gaze found Michael and Lily at their table. I believe that every person who crosses our path has something to teach us, if we're willing to listen. Tonight, I met someone who reminded me of values I hold dear, hard work, craftsmanship, and above all, devotion to family. A murmur of curiosity rippled through the crowd. Many of you know that Elena and I have been developing plans for a vocational training center through our foundation. What you don't know is that tonight, we found the perfect person to lead it. James raised his glass in Michael's direction. Michael Torres, thank you for accepting this challenge. I can't think of a better wedding gift than finding the right person to help bring this dream to life. All eyes turned toward Michael, who felt his face flush with a mixture of embarrassment and pride. Lily beamed beside him, squeezing his hand tightly. To new beginnings, James concluded, raising his glass higher. And to connections that remind us of what truly matters. The room erupted in applause as guests raised their glasses in response. Sarah appeared at Michael's side, her eyes shining with tears.